What we haven't done for a while is talked about the androids on Capitol Hill. What we haven't done, we haven't talked about the synthetic humans that much. In a way, I left the material, which was very compelling, very convincing, video evidence. I put the material online so that everyone can have a look at it and decide for themselves. Now, the android material is quite interesting because some people, in the beginning, some people saw it and right away they agreed with me. Right away, right? Once they saw the three pieces, the three characters. And some people saw it and they had to think about it, and some people outright rejected it, that it wasn't possible. Now, this is a long time ago. This is 2010. 2010 is when I publicly made available, starting in August, I think, my discovery that there were 3 androids on Capitol Hill. There were two male politicians and 1 female politician, all at the time very prominent. To this day, the female politician is extremely prominent and extremely powerful as a person. So I put this out in August of 2010. They generated the most interest in any of my work were the androids. And that prompted me to put together a documentary, a 41-minute documentary in which I narrated and I stitched together the entire basic argument. Why these characters stood out, why they were distinct, and what led me to conclude that they were of a synthetic nature, of a manufactured nature. And I released that documentary on Boxing Day in 2010, and it became one of the most talked about pieces of my work, of my research, which is significant because I've done a lot of research. I've had a lot of discussions, and this topic took to the public, the alternative market, pretty fast. So it got me a little excited, but it was very difficult because I didn't know where to take it. I mean, this was getting into, right, synthetic humans, synthetic DNA, robotics, AI, everything, microbiology, every skill set that I did not have. So, but I developed more documentaries, more discussions, and a book followed under various titles. And I put together my research and my discussion to clarify my discovery. The discovery is important because it's never been discovered before. And there's a reason for that. The way in which the world is run, there are rules. And there are rules for disclosure. And disclosure means something not in the picture that you're bringing into society that could fundamentally disrupt society. So the disclosure that we're not alone in the universe, that is here, right? It's off camera. And once you bring it in, it could have fundamental effects in the world. It could have economic effects, industrial, technology, patents, culture, genealogy, genetics. It can have a huge impact. So the way the world is run, And I'm going to explain this because maybe not everybody knows, or some people know, but they can't vocalize. And that's the strange thing about this business, the alternative business. Some of the things I say, people understand, and they may even know better than me, but they're not able to vocalize it, or they don't want to vocalize it. And that is an issue. I've taken it upon myself to vocalize and to share information because I believe that is the step forward. Sharing information, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not 100% proven, scientifically proven. And so the scientists don't like that, but sharing knowledge precedes hiding it. And in the past, they hid it. Secret societies, keep it in the family. So I've taken it, and that's just the way I work, is I've taken it to share this knowledge. And it's fundamentally shifted my path, and it's had detrimental effects on my life, my personal life, my financial life, all these things. But the reason we share is because you want to bring this knowledge to society. And some of this is important. But there are rules. So let me explain the rules, because not a lot of people know there are rules. Because if you don't bring something into the public awareness properly, the people who control the world, the cabal, the magicians, they can counter that move. They can reject that knowledge. They can take that knowledge and use it for dark purpose. They can use that to do something else that would be a detriment to the world. And it could be, they could delay other ascension. They could further impede human ascension, the progress of civilization, because if some knowledge is not brought right. So there are rules, but why are there rules? And this is going to be a little bit more off the radar here. There are rules because there are very powerful beings that overlook our little garden here. Remember, we are a giant ball of rock hurtling at 70,000 miles an hour around a giant ball of fire. It is a little funny, okay? Take a ball of rock and rotate it around a giant ball of fire. And that's what we are. That's it. That's life on Earth. It's fundamentally absurd, but we try not to think about it because it is absurd. Instead, we focus on all the little things. So the people who created this ball of rock that goes around a ball of fire, they are in charge. I'm not in charge, they are in charge, right? And there are good and there are less objective. And they basically control information in and out because they want their ball of rock to continue a certain way. And they want to control the way civilization grows. Now, so that's the background. There are more powerful beings, fundamentally more powerful, that we don't even have the words for. They're beyond our dictionary words. They are, right? They are these cosmic beings. beyond time and space with ultra power. The power to create and the power to end things. And they exist in their own little thing. Now, those beings, right, and there's a lot of these advanced beings. Those beings, they have all the answers. We can agree on that. They know everything. Everything is known. So for them, at any time, they could come and just give it to us, right? Here. At any time. But that interferes with the rules. There are rules. There are rules for everything. When you go on when you drive a car, there are rules. There are rules of the highway. When you buy a house, there are mortgage rules. There are strata fees. There are building permits, right? When you want to build. You want to develop a piece of land, there are permits and rules and inspections. In school, there are rules, you know. You have to follow the rules. You have a certain amount of time for a test. When you break the rules, there are consequences. You get kicked out of school, right? Your house, you can't build your house. You're driving too fast, you get a speeding ticket. We understand the rules. There are rules. There are cosmic rules. Karma, people know karma. If you do something bad to somebody, something bad's gonna happen to you, right? And you say, okay, I better be careful what I do, because otherwise I can expect something. So there are also rules for bringing knowledge into society. In other words, the people who know can't bring it into society, because that's violation of the rules. It either would be disqualified, it wouldn't happen, or there would be a consequence. There would be something detrimental that happens to the civilization, right? So let's say that there was a cure for cancer and it was brought in incorrectly, and let's say the consequence is there's a nuclear war, right? If you can bring in that, I can bring in that. So people follow the rules. So how does this relate to the androids? And why have the synthetic humans never been brought to the public? It's never, not to my knowledge, has it been brought to the public. It may have been discussed. It existed in fiction. It existed in fiction, but it never was transferred over into the public knowledge, because there are rules. So the people who know can't bring it. The people involved in the manufacture of synthetic humans and the cloning facilities inside the earth, they can't bring it. There are rules. I mean, the people who they're regulated, they're controlled, and if you got out, you would be eliminated. So they have their rules. So there are all these rules, and it's never been brought out. For some reason, I was paying attention in the fall of 2008, and I noticed an anomaly. An anomaly that's probably been there before, but no one noticed it. And for some reason, during the height of my awareness, I noticed something, but I didn't even know what it is. I noticed something. I recorded it, and I said to myself, well, there's something here, but I don't know what it is. And it took me 5 months before I saw another person, another one of the androids, And after 5 months of processing the data, I realized that these people are not what they seem. And the first thing that came to me is that these guys are some kind of androids. And later, I concluded that they were some kind of synthetic human with synthetic DNA. Of course, modern science does not have this level of synthetic DNA technology. Modern science cannot produce a human being, or modern science cannot program a human being. Modern science cannot clone people. So my discovery contradicted all conventional knowledge, all conventional science. The advantage is I'm not a scientist. So I didn't have that training, I didn't have that programming, so I was able to say, it is possible. A scientist will say, it needs to be proven before I will believe it. You need to hit me on the head with evidence, and then I will start to believe you. And then there will be an advocate. A person like me says, you know, you need to make sense, and I will begin to believe it. And it's worked for me. And that's what led to the discovery, because I was open to it. And I was processing it, and I was aware of it. Now, by the same token, at no time did anyone help me. At no time did I have an insider. At no time did an advanced being tell me anything. And I did ask for help. There was a silence. There was cosmic silence. At the time, I wasn't sure why, but my suspicion was, again, there's some kind of protocol. And later I realized that there are these rules that if they were to help me, that's a violation, and that would ruin the discovery, right? The discovery would either be pulled, I would be pulled, or something bad could happen. Some kind of negative effect would be brought in. Because the other group, the group that controls the world, would say, hey, you violated the rules, now we want compensation. And they get to do what they want. And then that would be negotiated, and I would be stuck in the middle. And so the higher beings knew that they can't help me, and they just relied on me. And I spent a lot of time and effort and under a lot of stress to figure out, to make sense of this thing. And it took years. So from 2008 to about 2013, it's about 5 years of my life to figure out, right, to learn microbiology, synthetic biology, robotics, global history, the cabal, cloning, quantum mechanics, you name it. 5 years. Now, in case you don't know, for most people, that's very time-consuming and very stressful. And there are no programs that will sponsor you to do that. So, but during those years, I managed to put this story, this discovery together on my own. And that's the interesting part. So the initial 3 people I discovered, 3 politicians on Capitol Hill, they're significant because they're in positions of power, and they are synthetic. And synthetic means that they look, for every reason, they look and are human. They can procreate, they eat, they think, they have a personality, but they ultimately have some kind of control mechanism. And the control mechanism can come in and alter their path, alter what they say, alter what they do and who they support and who they stand against. And they're at the highest levels of political power. They can go on television and make a statement to millions of people, and they have the backing of Congress, Senate, laws. These are very powerful positions. It's not by accident that they are in these positions of power. And that kind of led me to the next discussion, that once I was able to provide my theory that some humans here are synthetic, and some are more synthetic than others, and they've been placed here in positions. Now, once that theory was, I felt, was settled, once that theory had been kind of formalized, it led to the next kind of discussion, is that how many people have been placed in positions of influence, in positions of power, whether it be music, whether it be film, whether it be art, politics, business, science, invention. How many of these influencers, these synthetic, these simulacrum, how many are in the world today? My further theory is, if the synthetic technology, the synthetic DNA, synthetic biology is so advanced underground, right? If it's so advanced underground, and that they can replicate a human, they can produce a human, and that the two synthetic humans can procreate to produce a third synthetic human. If that technology is as advanced as I suggest today, how long has that been? How long has it been going on? Because it's not recent. If this technology came from off-planet, which is most likely, came from off-planet and it was put in place here underground, this technology could have been here for thousands of years. And it may have developed, right? This may be one way to colonize a planet, is to bring synthetic procreation, synthetic biology, set up a synthetic biology lab inside, deep under the earth. And while on the surface you have these hybrids, these mutations of the primates, genetic engineering, underneath you have your synthetic population intermixed with the genetic diaspora, whether it's primate, whether it's off-planet. So you have synthetic, you have the genetic mutations, and then you can have off-planet genetics. At least these three types intermixed in one civilization. So it goes to, my theory is this has been around for thousands of years, because it's once you have the science, right? Once you have the science, it just, you can send it to any planet. You can send a lab, you can set it up, right? It's like a franchise. Once you have the system, send it out to different places. So there are far more of these synthetics than the three. So in all my videos and all my documentaries and discussions, I identified at least 12 synthetic humans. I always go back to the 3 main candidates, but I identified on video at least 12 just to show people that there's a lot more than the 3. And some of them get more difficult to define. Some of them are less obvious, and that's the problem. Like, the 3 were obvious just because of circumstance. Otherwise, they're not obvious. Right? You could be married to one and not know it. So I identified 12, and just to show, look, there are 12. The idea for me is, if I show you what to look for, and I provide the theory, and I give you all my information, and I say these are 12, then you can go from there and you can find 12 more, right? My feeling is I don't have to find 100 of them, because there's 12. I mean, if you find one, should have been enough, right? If people said to me, show me one alien, get him on video, I will worship you, Paris. I will follow you the rest of my life. Well, I found 3 androids, and I found 12. I don't see any people following me. In fact, people are still sitting on the fence. So, the discovery worked because I had nobody helping me. And it made it very difficult for me. When I say difficult, it was not for me to understand what I was looking at. I had to push myself beyond anything I've ever done before. So let me give you an analogy. You're a weightlifter, you can lift 500 pounds. Now, to go to the next level of 1,000 pounds of deadlift, you need to get so much bigger. You need to do steroids, you need to take protein, you need to get strong, you need to change your exercise program. Everything has to change in order to go that level, and the risk is very high because you can get hurt. And the training will separate you from your family, and you may get hurt, and you might not make it, right? So for me to see this, mine was more internal, more intellectual perception, but still I had something changed in me for me to see that. And it wasn't easy. And that process has changed me fundamentally. But it's important. And it was the only way to do it, because no one could help me. And there was a lot of interference. I had to deal with the attacks, right? Magic attacks, psychic attacks. I had to deal with the stresses of everyday life, the financial, keeping jobs, eating. So there was all risk and no gain. There was no benefit. There's never been any benefit to me making this discovery. I could tell you that much. But it's something that I had to do. And it's important. It's important that we are aware that some of our influencers, male, female, any color of skin, any race or nationality, right? Don't think it's just Caucasian. Any race, any nationality, any language, gender, any gender. that some of these people can be synthetic human, and they may never know they're synthetic. They may be the child of synthetic human, and there may never be any indication of synthetic. If my observations are correct, some of the latest technologies in synthetic biology are so advanced that these people, they're very hard to distinguish between a natural human and a synthetic human. Now, so let's go back a little bit. So the three politicians that I identified are in their 70s. So they are older technology. Since that time, the synthetics have gotten better. They're more difficult to distinguish. But now we know that this technology is available, is evident, and has been deployed. And we know that it's evolved, and we know that a certain percentage of society is synthetic. Not all, maybe not all, maybe not all. That's another discussion. But certainly a fraction. And they're there for a reason. They're there for a reason, good or bad. There are a lot of good reasons, right? To inspire people. They're there. And that will get us into a more philosophical discussion. There are reasons. These things are not accidents. This technology is not an accident. It's not an evil ploy. It's a protocol in space colonization. It's just that we've never been aware of it. And so we should not take it as a negative or a positive. We just take it, this is a new level of understanding a species. I think that's where we need to get to. That this is, this is a fact we call it a fact of life. Fact of life.